Shelley, you've been a guinea pig long enough. It's time to see if this stuff really works.
Yo, what's good with y'all, man? So today, got a little throwback for you guys. We're gonna go back and we're gonna look at the first article that I ever published on my blog. I started my blog on November 12th, 2021. And since then, I've been through a lot, a lot. Honestly, it's been like a tough year. It's been, like I said, the anniversary passed a couple weeks ago, but a lot of good things have happened to me during that time as well. And one of the best things that happened was my blog and, my my origin story, I guess. Anyway, so this would be the first article that I did was in my predictive program series. And I talked about the Nutty Professor and essentially how it provided predictive programming in regards to a lot of the gene editing and DNA manipulation, as well as the obesity pandemic that is prevalent in specifically America, but also throughout the world. So, yeah, we're going to go back and read my first article ever. And title of the article is Gene Editing, Obesity, and the Nutty Professor. If you haven't seen this movie, you guys should definitely go watch The Nutty Professor, man. It's a great film, especially for men. And I'll talk about that more towards the end of the article about some of the things that I saw personally and some of the spiritual and moral teachings that I feel like it displays. But let's get started, bro. The tale of the Nutty Professor is a story as old as time, and one that should ring familiar to many of us. Loosely based on the 1885 classic case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, we follow our obese protagonist, Sherman Klump, a brilliant chemist who develops a miracle drug that rapidly and dramatically decreases the weight in a subject by altering its DNA. I didn't notice that the first time that I watched this movie when I was a kid, but if you go back and watch the movie, the drug that Eddie Murphy, aka Sherman Klump, develops, it works by like editing his DNA and like shrinking it, and it's weird. But go back and look, like it shows you and it tells you how it alters like his genome. Anyway, frustrated with this slow burn fitness regime and desperately wanting to impress the girl of his affections, he makes the rash decision to test the serum on himself. Naturally, the drug has adverse effects and simultaneously changes Sherman's personality along with his physique, awakening the dormant, charismatic persona known in the film as Buddy Love. On an explicit level, the movie then follows the classic script of reconciliation between the protagonist, his beguiling alter ego, and his love interest as they find themselves in a series of unfortunate events. So that's basically right here. You see the two. I guess, opposing sides of Sherman's person, his psyche. On a subliminal level, however, the film mixes in themes of DNA manipulation and occult undertones. We see it predict America's increasing obesity pandemic and the urge for people to find a quick fix. Why go to the gym or eat healthy when the medical industry can treat it in a day? What if that treatment costs you your humanity? And just going a little bit off of that, I feel like most people understand by now that the powers that be who control the medical industry, they don't want to cure people. They definitely don't want people to go to the gym and to work out. They would much rather make money off of you and give you pills and treatment so that they can continually make money off you, and also to monitor you and your habits, and to essentially see if you could eventually pose a threat. They know that strong-minded, strong-bodied, able-bodied people can be a threat. So that's part of the reason why they are pushing obesity, and they create ideologies like fat shaming and things like that, because they want people to be fat. They want people to be lazy and out of shape so that they can do whatever they want. Now I do what I want. Continuing. We see it foreshadow the rise of gene therapy and DNA manipulation as a cure for obesity and other various ailments, most recently through the CRISPR gene editing technology developed by Emmanuel Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna. I'm sorry if I butchered your names, you random people. Anyway, the technology has already begun human trials and is coming to a store near you. So this is a quote that describes how the CRISPR technology is coming to the store near you. Following a breakthrough trial where gene editing technology, CRISPR, completed its first systemic delivery as medicine to a human body, IntelliTherapeutics CEO John Leonard said he hopes the gene therapy could be made available to patients very, very soon. So I'll talk about that more when we get to the actual section on gene editing. But be careful with that stuff, man. We know that Satan likes to mix and match and dilute God's creations. So that's really what that's about. So the next section is called chemistry, and chemistry equals alchemy. Perhaps most overtly, we see the film depict themes of dissociative identity disorder and the hermetic concept of alchemic synthesis between the higher consciousness of Sherman Klump and the lower consciousness of Buddy Love. So basically, Sherman represents like his higher Christ conscience, as a new age person would say. And and Buddy represents his like lower bestial Adam like state, his man, earthly state. Hermeticism is basically esoteric knowledge and philosophy originating from ancient Egypt, and it's huge in Hollywood and mass media in general. If any of you have read The Alchemist or have any knowledge of ancient Egyptian/Kemetic history, then you should be familiar with things like the Emerald Tablet of Hermes and the 7 Hermetic Principles. So if you guys don't know that already, the 7 Hermetic Principles are basically kind of like Satan's version of the 10 Commandments, even though it's 7. You know, Satan is a copycat. So if you research these Luciferian doctrines, these satanic religions, a lot of times they'll have like the same principles and themes of the Bible, but they'll be like mixed up. That's kind of like with the Georgia Guidestones. It's basically like they have 10 Commandments, but it's like inverted and evil. It's kind of the same thing with the 7 Hermetic Principles. And if you look them up, they sound good, but once again, that those teachings come from the adversary. One of the key components of Hermetics is the practice of alchemy. As I mentioned earlier, the professor is a chemist. Chemistry is simply modern-day alchemy, and alchemy has always been intertwined with witchcraft, spell casting, and magic. So basically, well, like I just said, alchemy is basically like chemistry without the spiritual aspect. So if you can see down here, I put this picture, and you can see on the left, it says the 7 stages of alchemical transformation. But you can tell just from the images, you see the test tubes and the beakers, and also the terms that they use, like dissolution, conjunction, fermentation. I'm sure you heard those terms or use those terms in chemistry. And chemistry is all about mixing things, creating new elements, experimenting, with the properties of various substances, right? It's the same thing with alchemy. And then alchemy is basically, they talk about it, and they talked about it in The Alchemist, how they have this process of transforming lead into gold. And that can be interpreted two ways. So some people think that the magicians, aka alchemists and magicians and sorcerers, those are all interchangeable terms. They all are the same thing. Like an alchemist is a witch, basically. It's a wizard. And like the modern day scientists are like modern day witches and wizards. Not all of them, but a lot of them who are helping to push, certain societal agendas. Anyway, back to the lead and gold theory. So some people think that they could actually like literally turn lead into gold, and then they could be rich, and they could basically make their own wealth, and they could make other people rich, things like that. But it also could be interpreted from a spiritual perspective of like how we see in the movie. You have like the lower half of Sherman or Buddy, depending on your perspective, and then you have the higher half, right? You have like a duality. You have a transformation of a man into a god. And that's the whole point of alchemy and witchcraft, is to become a god, is to become a god in the flesh, to become like God. And once again, that's Satan's whole goal, is to be like God. So anyway, let's continue. The words alchemy and chemistry themselves unmistakably denote a Kemetic Egyptian origin per numerous sources, and we know that Kemet was the birthplace of magicians, witchcraft, and occult philosophy. So you can see it in the words like alchemy, chemistry. It's Kemetic. It's Egyptian. It's all based in witchcraft. In this film, the professor plays the role of Thoth, or Hermes, the great magician and scientist of the Kemetic pantheon and originator of Hermetic philosophy and alchemy. Understand that all movies are programming you to understand and accept the gods and goddesses of antiquity. They are subliminally teaching you about their belief systems and forcing you to identify with their moral leanings and spiritual ideas. So I think I talked about this I talked about this in a whole bunch of articles that I published already, but basically all the movies and the TV shows that we watch, the characters, and it's very easy to see in like certain superhero movies, like especially like the Avengers and stuff, or like they literally have like characters like Thor or like the Scarlet Witch, who is like clearly Isis. But even in movies where like there isn't a clear, I guess, like esoteric significance, all of these characters are meant to represent like gods and goddesses, because that's how like the celebrities, the movie stars, the athletes, the musicians in our society, that's how they view themselves. They're all occultists. They're all alchemists. And they've all ascended up the, Masonic ladder, whether they be Boule members or Eastern Stars. So they basically already view themselves as God. That's why a lot of celebrities have like that I am handle for like their social medias. But in this film, like I said, like Sherman, he's a chemist. He's a creator, basically. He creates his drug, and he's also a shapeshifter. He's a transformer. And all the ancient gods and goddesses, they could transform, they could turn into men, women, animals. So that is like, when you understand it, I guess, from a three-dimensional perspective, you see that like this person is playing like a god. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So now we'll get to the section on gene editing. When evaluating the themes and trends propagated in the media, along with the various societal shifts throughout the ages, we find an undeniable correlation. We all know of such glaring instances as The Simpsons predicting Trump and 9/11, but is that where it ends? Was it just a lucky guess? Was it simply by chance? We know the media has always been controlled. Movies and TV shows don't get shown without a purpose. My hope for this series is to get you to see the connections between the media and cultural changes, and provide you with the tools to evaluate mass media and make logical evaluations about the world that you live in. So I'm pretty sure we all know about how like The Simpsons, they predict like major societal events and societal shifts. So I put this picture in here. I never really like watched The Simpsons, but I'm pretty sure, did they predict like the Bengals being in the Super Bowl as well, like 1 or 2 years ago? And obviously they predicted 9/11, but Yeah, there are a whole bunch of other shows. Family Guy is a show like that too, where they like predict certain things and they show you certain things. They show you certain truth. American Dad, the whole like CIA and how they be doing all this like crazy stuff that other people don't know about. Shows like that, The Simpsons, Family Guy, American Dad, they are all perfect examples of predictive programming. So make sure you watch that, you know, with your spiritual eye open when you watch those shows. When watching the film, try to keep several things at the forefront of your mind. Write them on a piece of paper if need be. As I mentioned earlier, really consider and meditate on the fact that this film was made in the mid-90s, an era where technology was just beginning to take off and the obesity average in America was only 15%. Now consider your current environment. The obesity average has risen to 36%, and scientists are re-engineering humans, concocting designer babies, and in some instances even hybridizing human and animal DNA. Gene editing therapy has been quietly rising as a new medical practice, and the promise of improving, quote unquote, improving humanity through DNA manipulation is a reality fast approaching. So for those of you who don't know what designer babies are, it's basically where they've developed or they've come far enough in gene therapy and DNA manipulation where they could essentially like create a baby for you, right? So if you got money, you can go to these gene therapists, these DNA manipulators, and be like, okay, I want my baby to be, 6'3" with curly blonde hair and green eyes and like hazel skin. And they can like make sure your baby has those traits. Like they can create like on some like Sims type stuff. Like they can literally like create a baby for you. It's very, very, it's weird, bro. It's very weird. And obviously you hear all those stories about how they like inject human cells into like sheep and mice and pigs and things like that. But they're also doing the reverse now. They're now injecting animal cells into humans. A great movie that depicts that. Oh, you guys have to watch this movie. I'm gonna do an article about it very soon. But it's called Sorry to Bother You. It stars Lakeith Stanfield. I believe that it's on Netflix. It might be on Hulu. But basically, it's like in the near future, and the government basically they make horse people basically, right? Like they inject people with like horse DNA and it literally like transforms them into like horse people. Like it's like a horse, but like they walk on two legs and they can like speak English. And they do that because they want like their slave class, the workforce, to be able to work with like the strength and stamina of a horse. They talk about in the movie how like humans just aren't cutting it anymore. Like they are, lazy, they get sick, they get tired. So they transform them, they hybridize them with these horses to make like a perfect workforce. It's very crazy, it's very evil and demonic, and it's funny too. Like it's a great movie, honestly. They talk about a lot of great things. There's a lot of esoteric Masonic messages in there. But we'll talk about that when I do my article about it. So yeah. So here's a video I have that kind of explains the CRISPR phenomenon and what they're exactly doing. And I'm pretty sure, so yeah, it's down here. So at 54 seconds, you'll see a scene where they take from Spider-Man. And Spider-Man, I actually already wrote an article about Spider-Man in my Seed of Satan series. Yes, I know, that's crazy, right? Spider-Man, Satan? No way. Yes way, bro. Spider-Man is Satan. But I still love Spider-Man, though. Like, he's still my favorite superhero. Anyway, Spider-Man is another example of predictive programming for DNA manipulation and how like they portray it as, okay, like if you let us edit your DNA, you'll basically have like superpowers. But that's not the point. Like they don't want you to have superpowers, bro. They want to control you and to really dilute and to pervert your God-given DNA. But let's watch this video real quick. I think it's only 2 minutes.
Chinese researcher He Jiankui claimed to have made the world's first genetically edited babies. He altered the DNA of twin girls to try to make them resistant to infections with the HIV and AIDS virus, despite this practice being illegal and many scientists being against it in the first place. Scientists now have a tool that could alter you before you are born. It's called CRISPR. Clustered, regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. Sorry, did we lose you there? We have the facts. Your body is amazing. It's constantly fighting off illnesses, mutating, and rebuilding itself. And CRISPR takes advantage of all of that. So when viruses are killed off, your body collects and stores remnants of the virus's DNA. Your body uses the virus's DNA to quickly identify, then eliminate the virus if it returns. So now, scientists discovered that if you have a trait for a disease, they can tell CRISPR to cut out those sequences from your DNA. Here's how it works. Cas9, or CRISPR-associated protein 9, is an enzyme that acts like a pair of itty-bitty scissors that can...
Did y'all see that, bro? How he showed, like, Spider-Man? Like, Spider-Man came out in, like, 2002. Like, they've been showing this and predicting this. That was, like, 20 years ago now. 21 years ago. I wrote this article in 2021, so it was, like, 19 years. But still, like, that was 20 years ago. They were thinking about stuff like this. They could honestly probably already do it back then, but they knew that, like, society would not accept that. But now, you know, they can do it. But anyway, that's why I'm glad that it showed that.
2 strands of DNA at a specific location. Typically, our body uses Cas9 to identify and destroy invaders, but scientists can create guide RNA to show Cas9 exactly where to cut in a DNA sequence. The cell then tries to repair the DNA, but scientists alter the DNA to include their changes, and the gene editing is done. Pretty exciting, right? But what can scientists use CRISPR for? They can use it for curing disease, genetic mutations, stopping bad inherited genes like Huntington's and Tay-Sachs, saving endangered and extinct species, and creating healthier food from meat to vegetables, to name a few. The dark side of CRISPR uses are unknown mutations, super diseases and viruses, increased risk of cancer, and biological attacks, not to mention the ethical arguments over designer babies. Because of this, gene editing is illegal. And
you saw that too, that mark of the beast foreshadowing, how they gonna get a mark on their hand and on their forehead. And that's what like there are a lot of different interpretations for the mark of the beast, but I think the whole concept of like editing your DNA, like changing your DNA, is a lot more serious than like people are giving it credit for. Like, you're literally changing who you are. Like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. But keep it going, man.
Most places in the world, including China. And even then, Zhang Kuai went along with the procedure. Zhang Kuai said he's altered embryos for 7 couples in fertility treatments, but only one had pregnancy results, twin girls.
There will be someone somewhere who's doing this. If it's not me, it's someone else.
Mainstream researchers and the bulk of the scientific community have called his science project irresponsible and denounced it as human experimentation. Scientists opt for going slow until this genome editing is deemed completely safe. And some consider that any genome editing could have unintended consequences for future generations. Despite all the preemptive worry, scientists feel confident that by the time that you head to the doctor for some gene editing to wipe away your ailments, they'll have it all ironed out. Well, let's hope so.
Okay, so that video, I feel like, did a great job of just giving you a little overview of what CRISPR is, how they really are like editing people's DNA, like I said, making designer babies, and how like they're gonna market it to you. So they're gonna tell you like, oh, we can edit your DNA, we can put, you know, the chip in your body, and you'll be able to, we can make sure you're immune to certain diseases, and you'll be able to like open your house door and your car door with like your hand, with your mind, basically. Like, you'll basically be able to have like superpowers. But they don't tell you that, like, first of all, you're literally like changing your God-given estate. And then, like, bro, once you change, like, once you do something like that, like, there's no going back from it. Like, you're basically, like, changing. You're going to lose your soul if you do that, bro. So just be careful. Because, like I said, they're going to market it to you so crazy, bro. They're going to tell you all these amazing things. But you saw, like, the dark things that were explained, which I really appreciate that. How they mentioned, like, you know, increased risk for cancer, certain biological defects, unintended consequences for future generations, like how are two DNA change people, like what would their kid, like, there are so many things that are like wrong with it, but just be aware that that is like actually going on in our society. You don't really hear about it on the news. You don't really hear about this stuff. You hear about China and COVID and, you know, that one black person that got killed by the police. But you don't hear about this crazy demonic stuff that they're doing right in front of our faces. So after viewing that, is it logical to say a correlation between our current reality and the subliminal messages in the Nutty Professor can be seen? I'm going to try to put a clip in the beginning of this video of like where they're showing how it changes his DNA. So hopefully I'll be able to find that. So stay tuned. The nice guy. So this is where we're going to get in some of the, like I said earlier, I mentioned some of the moral and spiritual teachings that I feel like specifically for young men, that this movie did a good job of portraying. So yeah, let's get into this section. Next, consider the relationship between the professor and Jada Pinkett Smith's character in the film. The entire conflict of the movie revolves around Sherman's desire to impress a woman that doesn't even want him. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy, bro. Notice how regardless of Sherman's considerate personality and benevolent advances, she still pursues the chaotic energy of buddy love, only settling for the kindly Sherman after satisfying her lustful urge for the black buck archetype. Be careful what persona you use to attract the woman, and consider what types of men attract the woman you are pursuing as well. Two can't walk together unless in the same spirit, and if she's drawn to chaotic men, she'll almost unerringly be toxic herself. Man, I was talking so crazy. I was 21. What was I talking about? I ain't know nothing about that. I was talking crazy as a young boy. But anyway, bro, like, yeah. So first, and I know a lot of guys are getting in touch with, like, you know, a lot of the red pill information going on, and I do agree with, honestly, like, a lot of what they say, but like it's still toxic to an extent, and a lot of stuff that they say, like, you can tell that they're like those guys who like got their heart broken, and it seems like some of them, not all of them, but they like low-key hate women, and that's not, you shouldn't hate women. You have to understand women. You understand women, and then you move accordingly, but you don't hate women and try to. But also something that I noticed with red pill content specifically is they try to like teach you to act a certain type of way to like somewhat change your personality. And like, you don't have to do that, bro. There are plenty of women out here who will love you just for you, bro. If you goofy, if you're like friendly and you like to like have conversations, like do that, bro. Don't be on that, oh, I'm gonna play these texting games and I'm gonna wait 2 hours before I respond and I'm gonna act all cool and collected. Like, bro, don't do that, bro. Because first of all, you're not gonna be able to maintain that. And then once you start acting like yourself, she might not be attracted to you because you basically lied. And then also, bro, like, if a girl doesn't like you for who you are and you're not a toxic person, then like just leave that alone, bro. Because if a girl likes a toxic guy, or she is drawn to toxic men, bro, she's for the streets and she will pay her dues in time, bro. Like she will be handled. Gotta handle her. Those men will do her dirty. That don't have nothing to do with you. Honestly, like, people are gonna do what they want to do regardless. So don't try to change women. Don't pursue toxic women if you're not toxic yourself. And don't try to like put on some facade or change your personality to attract, you know, anybody. Be yourself. Be who God made you to be, and the right people will come into your life. I know that sounds cliche, but like, it's the truth, bro. Consider these things in your interactions with the females in your life and keep the Most High first at all times. So like I said in the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, basically like the Professor Sherman, he had like a love interest. And that was honestly like the whole point of why he did that like experiment. Like he did it on himself because like he wanted to take her out and he felt uncomfortable and he basically hated himself. Like he didn't like his body, but like I said, like, you see people do that in real life. Like, they don't like themselves, so they'll go out and get plastic surgery or get a BBL or something, get liposuction. But, like, bro, you could just go to the gym. Or you could just, you know, wear better fitting clothes. I don't know. There are a lot of practical things that you can do besides, like, literally going out and changing your body and getting surgery and, like, becoming fake, basically. Becoming something you're not. So, yeah, don't do that, bro. Like, there's plenty of fish in the sea, bro. You don't have to change yourself, and you don't have to, I mean, you do have to change yourself, but like don't go about it the wrong way. Do it for the right reasons. Like, it's okay to like want to change yourself so you can like get more female attraction. Like, that's fine, but do it the right way. Like, do the hard work even when you don't feel like it. Shout out to Hamza, bro. Go to the gym, eat healthier, increase your hygiene, but don't go out looking for like some quick fix, bro. Like, don't go out getting some type of surgery or taking some type of pills or anything like that, bro. You don't need to do that. You versus you. So now we'll get into more like the esoteric, like I said, because Sherman is basically like the carnal side. I mean, Sherman is basically like the righteous side of his personality, and Buddy is kind of like the wicked side of his personality. I also talked about this. I have an article called "Be Like Huey," and I feel like especially all people, but especially so-called black men, we all kind of suffer from a form of like split personality, where we have like our Huey aspect, where it's like we know the right thing to do, we know like the good habits, we do them sometimes, but we also have like our Riley aspect, where like we want to go to parties and do drugs and chase girls, right? Like we all have that aspect within us. And basically you have to, let me just get into it. Let me read this and then we'll talk about this some more. Finally, consider the relationship between Sherman and his alter ego, Buddy Love. Think. Buddy didn't come from thin air. He came from the inner recesses of Sherman's subconscious, representing his earthly carnal nature. Consider your own base nature, the unrestrained aspect of your consciousness, and meditate on him. Who is your Buddy Love? When has he appeared in your life? Imagine if Sherman had continued his righteous workout regimen. He would have eventually... Let me read that again. Imagine if Sherman had continued his righteous workout regimen. He would have eventually achieved the physique of Buddy Love while avoiding the personality-altering side effects of the drug. And that's something a lot of people like struggle with. Like, they'll get plastic surgery and then they'll be like depressed because like, like when you cheat, bro, or when you cheat the system, or you do something like we take the easy way, a lot of times like you'll feel bad because you're like, I don't really deserve this. Like, I didn't do this the right way. Like, intrinsically, spiritually, And that's why a lot of people, they'll keep going like to get more plastic surgery and keep doing stuff because like now you're in an endless cycle of like depression. And it's basically like, have you ever like made a mistake on a drawing or like a painting, and instead of just like leaving the mistake alone, you try to like fix the mistake and it makes it even worse? Like, it's like that same idea. Like, when you try to do things the wrong way, you feel bad about it, and then you try to like fix it, and a lot of times just makes it worse when you could just either not do it at all or just like take that L. Just take that L, be like, I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. I'm going to just be better from here on out. But don't, keep trying to fix your mistakes, bro. Only God can fix your mistakes for real, if he wants to. So let me read that one more time. Imagine if Sherman had continued his righteous workout regimen. He would have eventually achieved the physique of Buddy Love while avoiding the personality-altering side effects of the drug. He would have synthesized his dream body with his already established intelligence and morality, becoming a better man overall. Think of all the other occasions and instances where you've seen this theme depicted of the lower and higher consciousness fighting for supremacy. So I put this in as kind of like a foreshadowing because like that whole concept of like split personality and having like that duality to you, duality is huge in occultism. They believe that good and evil are the same. That's where you get like the yin yang, the black and white, and also the blue and red that you see so many heroes like Spider-Man that they wear, like that symbolizes them being like we'll talk about that in my next I think I talked about it essentially. I literally have an article. It's called Demonic Duality. So when I do that article, it'll make more sense about like the color schemes that they use. You see with the Sith and Jedi too, how like the good guys have blue lightsabers and the bad guys have red lightsabers, but they're all like witches. They're all like evil. But anyway, like I said, that theme of like the consciousness, having like a split consciousness is very important in occult circles, especially with like the MK Ultra program where like they install personality alters into their subjects so that they can, basically do what they want them to do, and they can be puppets, and they all have like triggers and things like that. I'm going to do an article about MK Ultra soon, If you want to learn more about it, you can get a book called Transformation of America by Kathy O'Brien, and she was an MK Ultra victim. She eventually got saved, but then she wrote a book about her experiences in the program, about how they like brainwash people and they do all types of. She exposed a lot of celebrities, like a lot of stuff that Kanye's been saying. Like she's talking about the same things. So like these people be doing sex rituals and child pedophilia, sex trafficking, all types of crazy stuff. But yeah, you should definitely look up and look into MK Ultra. And once again, you see like the battle within, right? With the Spider-Man at the top of the poster. The same thing with Sherman. Like you always see that with the Hulk. You always have to like battle that darker aspect of yourself. That's very huge in occult philosophy. Are forms of social engineering and predictive programming at work here? What is the Nutty Professor really saying? What direction does it implicate society is trending towards? And what are the implications of a movie made in 1996? Wow, what a year. Yet so aware of minor things like DNA manipulation, the increasing obesity problem, and multiple personalities. So yeah, that's the end of my first article. I think it's pretty good actually. Like for my first article ever, I've definitely gotten a lot better now. But for my first article ever, I think this was pretty cool. I think I talked about a lot of things, a lot of good things. Had the cool video, had some statistics, good pictures. I think it was cool. I think I did a good job. Y'all let me know if I did a good job. Obviously, I'm biased, but yeah. Once again, y'all should definitely go check out this movie. I recommend that you watch this video first and then go watch the movie so that you can see like if the things I'm talking about make sense and if they resonate with you. But yeah, this is a really good movie overall, and yeah, hopefully y'all liked my first article ever. And I'm gonna be a lot more consistent from here on out. I've just been, I've been juggling a lot in my life, my job and trying to maintain all my good habits. I'm kind of been in like that self-improvement depression kind of where like I never feel like I'm doing enough, like even though I'm doing way more than I was even a couple months ago. But it's still like it's just nothing's ever enough, But I'm gonna be better from here on out. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, Chance.